Hey guys, before we dive into this week's episode, I've got a little offer for you. This year I launched my online studio, Mindful Moment, and I'd love for you to prioritise your own well-being and come and have a free trial. You'll get unlimited 24-hour access to my growing library of meditations, mindfulness techniques, breathwork and movement sessions, yoga classes, sound healing recordings, and more. Whether you got 2 minutes or a full day, and whether you want to improve your sleep, feel calmer, or let go of damaging thought patterns, there are sessions there to support you. All from the comfort of your own home on your own timetable. Go to lilysilverton.com/mindful-moment to start your free 7-day trial today.
I think this is, again, maybe how your priorities change during this time. And I'm pretty tough on myself with work and I put a lot of pressure. And I think when you have your own business, you put more pressure because it's just all on you. And I always have this sort of feeling that I've got to be working. Doing my book last year, I did that all in lockdown. So I feel that I didn't really give myself much of a break. And then, come January, I found January very hard, as I'm sure a lot of people did. And, if it was good weather, I always make the effort to go out, sit in the sun, have a drink, just have that time, read a book and not be, oh God, I've got to be working. Oh, I've got to be doing this and got to be doing that.
Welcome to Priorities, the podcast about the things in life that really matter. I'm your host, journalist and coach Lily Silverton, and each week, along with a roster of incredible guests, I'll be exploring how priorities inform and transform our lives, sharing mindset tips, strategies, and inspiration to help you prioritize your own life. We'll be covering what we think is important and unimportant, what we'd like to work on more, and the moments that changed our priorities and lives forever. I hope you enjoy. My guest today is chef, writer, and food company director Nina Parker. The author of 3 cookbooks, Nina worked in multiple London restaurants before setting up her private catering business, which counts Donatella Versace, Russell Brand, and Stormzy among her clients. Nina has written for publications such as Vogue and Condé Nast Traveller, and is the food travel columnist for Tatler, the Evening Standard's ES Insider, and environmental publication EcoAge. Her 3rd cookbook, Saucy, came out last year. Hi, Nina.
Hi, Lily.
How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks. So nice to talk to you this morning on a Monday.
And you. Do you, so Monday morning, do you have a bit of a routine, Nina? Are you a routine person?
Yes, I am. I try, definitely to do a few nice things in the morning, and such as sort of meditation. I do like a 20-minute meditation most mornings, a bit of yoga, or I run. That's also something I'll do. I make a smoothie. I love my smoothies. So like a combination of that, sort of those things.
Sounds like a very dreamy routine.
Yes. Well, I'm in somewhere right now which doesn't have any curtains, so waking up early is quite easy. I mean, I'm up kind of like at sort of 5, 6, quite, easily.
Are you a morning person?
I don't think I used to be, but I think in lockdown I've become even more so, just because, I'm just not doing quite as many things in the evenings. And I'm pretty bored of watching series and TV. So I'd rather get up a bit earlier and do some stuff. Plus, I just think it's so important for my mental state to do a few of those things. I notice when I don't do them that I just don't feel as good. So keeping in a good sort of space is essential.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, should we move on to one of your first priorities?
Yes.
So you of course, as a chef, that one of your big priorities is good food and a nice meal.
Yeah. I know, seems very basic, but I think, when you were asking me those questions, I just thought my priorities at the moment are quite simple, and just because that's all that's on offer. I mean, I remember like January and February that it was so simple what we could do. And, the dark, thank God the days are getting lighter now, but, with dark evenings and, making a really nice meal where it, something that takes a bit more time, whether it's like tortellini or doing like a prawn burger, things like that. Just, I think making a bit more of an effort and, going to your nice fishmonger or somewhere to get the good quality ingredients, and making it, that's basically what I'm spending my money on, is just delis. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you not find like that sort of probably something that, that everyone's trying to do? It's just, you can spend money on your food. That's all we can really spend money on at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I think for a lot of people, this sort of third lockdown has maybe been a bit more of a struggle to prioritize those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And that for a lot of people, it's just been head down, let's get through this.
Yeah.
Whereby, of course, first lockdown, everyone was like baking bread and making smoothies and trying out new meals and so on and so forth.
Yeah, definitely. I think because I normally go away at this sort of time of year, and also a big part of my life was doing travel writing, and I got so much inspiration from that. And because I'm not in a restaurant, and so my big inspiration comes from trying food. Even if it's in London, I'm going to a restaurant and I'll try a flavor combination, or it could even be something I've had before, but it triggers ideas for me. And I found it very difficult in January and February to like keep that inspiration going. And I've really had to force myself. So yeah, it's definitely been a challenge.
That extra bit of energy that's needed.
Yeah, definitely.
How did you get into food, Nina?
How did I get into food? I guess it was a gradual thing. When I sort of was at university, I did my year abroad in Madrid, and there was this amazing restaurant that kind of called Viva la Vida, and it was like organic and amazing. It was all vegetarian actually, and I just loved that place so much, and I always was like, oh, maybe I could create something like that when I leave uni. And then I think when I eventually left uni, I just kind of got the idea that I wanted to start some kind of food business and like have my own business. And then it was when I left uni, I went to work I was working at the tennis at Wimbledon, and a friend of mine said, oh, there's this incredible Italian restaurant called L'Anima in Liverpool Street. I could maybe get you a meeting with the head chef. And I met him, this guy called Francesco Mazzei, who's, became my boss. And I kind of worked my way through all the different sections. And in restaurants, it's called a stage, like kind of work experience. And I loved it. I just loved the kind of the fresh produce that came in the mornings. And it's, all in very much classic Italian, but very rustic. And the ice cream was just, I hadn't ever tasted ice cream like that. It was just all simple ingredients made from scratch. And I just fell in love with it. And I loved art, and I studied art, and my mum, I come from sort of an arty background, with my mum being like a sculptor and an artist. And this was like another kind of art, but still very creative, that I hadn't really thought, oh, this could be maybe something I'd be into. And yeah, it kind of stemmed from there. And then I just carried on. And then that's where I am now, I guess.
Have you always had a good relationship to food?
Yeah, pretty much. I have always been really I've always loved desserts. And yeah, I'd say I've always been, I wasn't as obsessed as I am now. But I think pretty much I've always, had a passion for it, and loved ice cream and cakes for sure. When I was, that's something I think when I started cooking, that was what I really wanted to do well at first. then it kind of stemmed on, moved on to other things and more savory.
So if you're doing a dinner party,
yeah,
what would you do to sort of wow people?
So if I'm doing a dinner party, I think with a dinner party, because there's a lot of pressure for me and I put a lot of pressure on myself, but also when people come over to my house, they expect a lot. What's really annoying when you have friends over, you kind of just want to enjoy it and have your mates over and not worry too much. But I just can't ever get away with that, unfortunately. But what I can do is I think whatever I'm doing, whether it's like a curry or like a fish curry, for example, I did a Caribbean curry the other day, and my cheats are doing lots of sort of toppings and sauces to go with it, because I feel like when you've got a lot of people, not that people have a lot of people these days, but if you have people, when I did have people coming over, it's those little things that you can add after, which kind of lights up the meal again. And especially they're sort of cheats because they add texture, more flavor, whether it's like a chili oil or crispy shallots or a sort of nut mix. That's what I always aim for. And I always try and give people definitely vegetarian, but quite often I make it vegan for them because I always want them to feel that this food can be so good. And yes, I always try and offer people that type of food, much to maybe them not wanting that, but then they sort of come around maybe in the end.
Maybe you could send us a link to a good curry recipe and I'll put it in the show notes as well.
Yes, definitely.
For when things do open back up shortly.
Yes. I know. I feel like we're on the cusp of it all hopefully coming back. Definitely the good weather is making such a difference.
Yeah, it does. Are you someone who's quite social normally?
Yes. I mean, I love having people around. You'd think I'd be sick of cooking, but I just love having people around, and also I'm quite a sociable person, and it's been difficult for me from that sort of side of things, and just, not seeing people. And I prefer to see people in real life. I spend so much time on my phone with Instagram for my job that I'm definitely someone that gets very bored of texting, and I would rather see people in real life. But hopefully we're coming to an end with that. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Do you feel relaxed about it?
About it, things hopefully opening up. I do actually. I am raring to go. I am not afraid at all about or apprehensive about. I can't wait for stuff to go back to, I think it's definitely changed me. Like it has hopefully changed quite a lot of people. But just the sociable aspect I've missed so much. And I know I was talking to a few people at the weekend, and some of them were thinking, oh, I'm a bit nervous of it going back. And I'm definitely not one of those people.
I think a lot of people are feeling quite apprehensive. Hopefully once things start opening up that they'll feel less so. But it's that anticipation that's almost worse. Because of course, once you start seeing people and having those interactions, they're so fulfilling, hopefully.
Oh, definitely. But I'm very much of the mindset that I try and, I guess the sort of things that I say to myself every day are, I try and be really positive. I try and, say affirmations and things like that. So I mean, when I see pictures of, like, I don't know, like Glastonbury, for example, or like a club scene in a film, I'm always like, I find it so abstract and I can't believe it. And I do have those realizations, but of, God, that seems so foreign now. But I really just feel like people, especially this summer, I'm really just hoping that people can actually have a good time and be together. And I feel that is really, when I'm living on a park at the moment, and I see so much of the park life at the moment, and it's amazing. And you just look and people just want to have a nice time with each other. And I just feel like we've all been through so much. And, it's been, people are so, their mental states is some more than others. Well, I think it's affected everyone as, from different sort of levels. But I think that we just need some good news and some good times. And yeah, so I'm excited about it.
Thinking about another one of your priorities, which was about being easier on yourself.
Yes.
And I really love that. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I think this is, again, maybe how your priorities change during this time. And I'm pretty tough on myself with work, and I put a lot of pressure. And I think when you have your own business, you put more pressure because it's just all on you. And I always have this sort of feeling that I've got to be working, I do a full work day, and I do work at the weekends. And doing my book last year, I did that all in lockdown. So I feel that I didn't really give myself much of a break. And then, come January, and actually, I think I found January very hard, as I'm sure a lot of people did. And, if it was good weather, I always make the effort to, like, it's going to be good the next couple of days this week. And I just feel already I am going to make the effort to go out, sit in the sun, have a drink, just have that time, read a book, and not, and not be, oh God, I've got to be working. Oh, I've got to be doing this and got to be doing that. And not worrying that I might get behind, or, because it is always fine, and I do always make it work. But I just think those times, especially because we can't go away anywhere, I think being happy with where you are and taking that opportunity, whether it's like a bit of sunshine, and just enjoying that when it is, and taking advantage of it in that moment. For me, I think that's, it's all about being happy in the present, isn't it? And taking and being present. And so I think I do take that time off, whereas before lockdown, I probably wouldn't have been so, because I would have thought, oh, well, I might be going away, or, I didn't, and not appreciating where I am as much. But I just think being easier on yourself and taking that time, I just do it now. And, I know that, and also making sure I take the weekend off. And it just does wonders for my mind state. So yeah, I think that's probably something that a priority now, and hopefully I'll carry it on as well when hopefully everything lifts. But I think, yeah, because I can be really tough, and to the point where, like, I'll give myself a panic attack. So it's good to just, I now know I have to do that, because otherwise it could end in tears.
I think it's really common also to work in that way that you talked about before, where you'd work nonstop, but then that you have a holiday coming up, so you'd take yourself to that breaking point.
Yeah,
rather
definitely.
than what it sounds like you've developed now, which is mindfully embracing little moments and little things that make a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even last week when the news, as I'm sure it affects a lot of people, it affects me a lot. And, it definitely, last year, there was a real, I always tried to, because we didn't know what was happening. And let's be honest, we still don't really know what's happening, and no one does. And it does infuriate me when, you'll listen to the news and they'll think, okay, I'm going to put this headline out, and they have no regard of like maybe how that's affecting people mentally, that, you know, we've been in a lockdown now for coming up to 3 months. And it's, you know, maybe some people were thinking, oh, we might potentially get to go away this summer. And suddenly your dreams in a moment are just crushed. And I think disappointments like that, I just personally, and I'm sure a lot of people find that quite difficult. So instead, my mindset is, you know what, I don't know what's going on, don't know what's going to happen. I probably will get away, maybe, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to concentrate on if England is having some good weather and some good things are happening, I'm going to just enjoy that and not think about anything else. And I think for me, I find comfort in that, and it keeps me stable, I suppose.
It's also a matter of, I guess, finding that internal stability rather than searching for it externally.
Yes. Which, you know what? I'm all for all of that. And I think I was even more for that and embracing that in the first lockdown. But year on, I definitely am not going to lie, I'm a little bit fed up of going for the internal. But it's fine. It's the way it is. But, you know, it's funny. My friend who's a yoga teacher, she says that to me quite a lot. And, you know, when I'm having like a complaint about things, and she'll say that to me and I'll be like, yes, I know. I'm into it. I'm totally there. But you know what? I'm fed up. That's all. But it's cool. You have moments, don't you, where you want to just be a bit frustrated, and then you get past it, and then you say, you know what? It's not that bad. It's fine. I'm healthy and I can do this. So, but yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I do because I love all of that, and then sometimes you're like, you know what, I just don't want to do that anymore. I want to be cross about this situation, and then you see past it and it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, also I really strongly believe that's the key to good mental health as well, because you meet people who are relentlessly positive about stuff.
Yeah, you need to have the spaz out, right? You need to be maybe a bit bratty, and you're like, you know what, this sucks, but I'm going to move past it. It's okay, but it's not okay.
Yeah. The people who are sort of always looking at the silver lining non-stop.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you want them to say, yeah, mate, this is not cool.
Yeah.
I'm fed up with the walks. I don't want to be internal. I am grateful, but I'm also not grateful at the same time. But no, I mean, you know, it is waves. Like it's funny when you have friends and you talk to people, and everyone has their moments, and they're going to be different moments to when you have it. But there are those waves of, oh, that poor, I totally feel for them. They're having one of those moments.
And it's good that people have it at different times as well.
Yeah.
So everyone's
different times. You're like, oh, did you speak to so and so? Yeah, she was having a real low moment. Yeah. It's like I had that last week. I totally know how you feel. Yeah.
When going back as well to what you said about not working quite as hard or being easier in yourself, or not working quite as relentlessly, I should say, maybe, because it doesn't working as hard. But it's something I work with clients a lot. And I can't remember if I've talked about it on the podcast before, but where we talk about, rather than thinking about input in terms of how much energy and time you're putting into your work, especially for freelancers, think about your output. So, you know, for you published your book Saucy really recently, and, you know, you've put a lot out there recently and done a huge amount of work. And so maybe it's a good time to step back and have a think about, you know, prioritizing your mental health and having a bit more of a break, because things will ramp up again. So always thinking about the output rather than the input. So you're not working relentlessly for no reason.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And that's something I have definitely tried to, I think in one of my affirmations, I tried to say, maybe well done for having produced that book in quite a tight schedule. And because I do have people that will sort of ask me, oh, cool, I think I just published it, and I even have people saying, "Oh, when is the next book?" And I just, that sort of just saying that to me does create quite a bit of anxiety, because I just think, wow, I just spent 8 months just giving so much of myself to that body of work. And, it's a ton of work. It definitely was a lot. And I did it in too short a space of time. And I wish I'd given myself a bit more. I could have done, I wish I had 2 months, maybe more, which is quite a lot of time when you think about it. But yeah, I think it's so important. And I think that's maybe why I've been easier on myself in these months, because I've thought, oh, well, I did work really hard. And, when you, not to compare, but you obviously do compare when you think of, where I am. So I'm sort of like East London, and there's, I joke it's called Furlough Fest on, a lot of the parks around here of people. And I'm like, oh, I would have, not that I think I would have wanted to do that, because I definitely wanted to do something constructive with all the time, because my catering stopped in lockdown inevitably. So I did have more time. I definitely always want to produce stuff, and I love creating things. But I did sometimes think like, oh, I didn't, I wish I kind of had a bit of that time to just chill out and drink beers on London fields, enjoying the Furlough Festival. But yeah, so there is, and I think that's why I've been easier on myself this side of the year. Because of, Instagram is sort of relentless, how much content you have to create, which is amazing. I love doing it, but it is important. I think, yeah, being self-employed, you do have to be strict and say to yourself, it's really important to give yourself this break and make sure what is it? You're going to laugh at this, but my life coach that I've started seeing this side of the year, she always says, she's this incredible woman called Georgia, who is just, I love her. She's so great. And she always says that capacity comes from rest. And maybe even, I think if you're in any industry, that's important. And I always say that to myself now when I think, oh, am I going to just work the other hour? And really, I say, no, you know what? I might just have a bath and light a candle and put some oils in that bath. And maybe I'll read my book. And, so I think it's stuck with me quite a lot.
Mm. I like that. Capacity comes from rest.
Yeah. It is. It's so true.
My work centres on helping people better navigate this challenging modern world, so I'm very excited that this episode of Priorities is sponsored by Anatomy, a London-based modern apothecary that provides natural solutions to support the stresses of daily life. Anatomy's range of vitamins, health supplements, and therapeutic essential oils have been developed with the help of sports scientists, nutritionists, and aromatologists, and they combine the best of nature and science to create products that support your essential health and well-being. I've been using their defense and immune support vitamins all winter, and I love their sleep and recovery oils. I put a little of their blue chamomile insomnia blend on my wrists and the soles of my feet before I get into bed, and always find it helps settle my body and mind. Anatomy are kindly offering any Priorities listener 20% off their first order with the code LILY20. Check them out on www.anatomy.co. You talked before obviously everything shut down, you were catering and you also worked as a private chef.
Yes.
And is that something that felt like it motivated you and gave you energy?
Yeah, I think what I used to work in restaurants, and I sometimes do pop-ups in restaurants now and again. And I think that industry, it's sort of been instilled in me, and anyone that works as a chef will know this, that it's incredibly hard work and it's incredibly labor intensive, and it instills this very strict discipline in you, to the point where I think unless you're working really, it's very labor intensive. And unless you're, you know, it sort of installs this crazy fast mentality, which is great for when you're in a restaurant, but then any task you do, I think it makes you really hard on yourself. It's good because it really toughened me up being in that industry, and it made me appreciate hard work and how hard some people work. But then maybe that is why it's made it really hard. I become so tough on myself about things. But I think it's good to do a balance. I think what was good about my job before lockdown is I think doing the catering and doing a bit of Instagram sort of simultaneously, having the sort of two sides of my business. The catering, well, it was me actually bringing food to people so people could actually taste what I could do and see if I could even cook, I suppose, because, when you make a beautiful image on Instagram, who knows if that tastes good in a way. That was always my thinking behind it. I always thought, oh, how does anyone know I can even cook? A pretty picture, anyone can do that. And so, it was sort of seeing if there was proof in the pudding, I suppose. But it's tough. It's even doing the catering. And because I'm like a one-man band, like I will have people help me on the night. It's just, it is sometimes a lot. So it's been nice to have a bit of a break from it and reassess, and obviously I love creating recipes, and I love the whole creative process and researching recipes. I think that's my happiest place. But then, it's fun doing a pop-up here and there, and you get to actually, you do get a buzz from being in the kitchen. But it's sort of, I guess it's a bittersweet. There's an amazing side to it, but then there's also an incredibly back-breaking side to it. And as much as I feel like I'm a strong person and can do a lot of things, I also do feel that I get very exhausted by that work. And I think, I think it's nice I think I need a balance for sure. I couldn't do the restaurant industry the whole time for sure. I think I'd just get sick the whole time, which is what I used to do back in the day, because my body just couldn't quite handle it.
I've got quite a few friends who are chefs, and I know that they experience a lot of burnout.
Yeah.
Question around social media for you, because so much of your work is based on there now.
Yes.
How do you manage that in terms of not getting burnt out or overwhelmed, or in terms of protecting your mental health and being online a lot?
Yeah. It's funny. So when people would say, oh, talk about mental health and then talk about social media, I didn't used to feel that effect at all, because Instagram used to just be like a sort of extra outlet for what I did. And it was great PR for anything I did. I could promote my books. But in the last year, because everything has become so digital, so one part of my business disappeared, which was the catering, but then all of my digital stuff just went crazy. And I was having to produce more content than I usually would. And also all my focus was on digital. And I did start to know, and I think that's why I started having panic attacks, because this is just how ridiculous this stuff makes you feel. So I was in the south of France. I was really lucky, and I got to go to the south of France in August, and I was produced, but I worked basically the whole time while I was out there, and I was producing the Saucy book, and I was doing all the recipe testing, and then I wanted to keep the Instagram going, so I was also creating content for that. And I think I was just at a maximum creative capacity, and I was, I remember going on a cycle ride, and I started feeling really funny because I was still doing a lot of exercise. I mean, when I look back, I was really, burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. I wasn't partying. I wish I was partying, but I wasn't. And I think I came back from the cycle ride, and my family had like left to go somewhere, and I started feeling really like kind of having an out of body. I just felt like my heart started racing, and I'd had a few panic attacks like years previously, but it felt a bit different. And I just, really sadly, I'd actually just lost my aunt to a heart attack like a few weeks earlier. And I thought, oh my God, is it in the blood? Like, is the same thing going to happen to me? And I had like an hour of feeling horrendous. I tried to do a bit of yoga. I thought, oh, maybe something's like, twisted, did a meditation, which usually always sorts me out. And then my brother came back, and I sort of told him, I was just like, I just feel really weird, and he just said, just go straight to sleep. So I went and I slept, and I felt better. And then I remember my family just said, you need to come off your phone. You need to not do any work. You're like updating your website. You're creating this book, and you're trying to like be, on Instagram and being active, and just, it was just stupid. But then I just felt the pressure, because I thought, oh, I've got this book coming out. I need to keep my Instagram going, because that's going to be my main outlet of selling it. So I have to keep this going. And, so it is. And then there's a lot of pressure of how much engagement you get. There's all this stuff. But no, and then I did no exercise for sort of, I think about 4 or 5 days, and just really, I think I just did a few like yoga nidras before I went to bed, and I felt so much better. But yeah, it really shocked me actually what I did to myself, because it was all self-inflicted. And yeah, so that was my example of how maybe social media gets a bit too much. And yeah.
That's brilliant that you could recognize that you were at that place and bring yourself back from it with help from your family.
Yeah, I know and then I've just tried to be a bit more chilled about it, and not, it's weird, almost you hit a sort of moment like that where you feel pretty low, and then you just realize, come on, this is stupid. Why are you putting so much pressure on it? It doesn't matter if you don't manage to create the content that day, or, don't put such, maybe do a few lighter posts where it's not such content heavy, where you have to create this amazing recipe with so much flavor, and it's got to be the best recipe. And I think, it's that sort of pressure. You just say, you know what, instead of going to create 3 amazing recipes a week, I'm just going to do 1, and the rest could be lighter content. So yeah, it's about balance. But I'm ridiculous. I was in the most beautiful location in the world, and I made myself feel so awful, which just shows you can be in a very relaxing, amazing place, and it's all internal, what's happening anyway. So it doesn't really matter where you are. If you're putting that stress and pressure, it'll still be that, you can't, it's not gonna, the location doesn't mask it in a way, because my family didn't understand why it was happening. They're like, well, we're in such a relaxing place. How can you be stressed? So yeah, no, it's funny. Well, it wasn't funny, but it is funny now, I guess.
We take that stuff with us wherever we go, don't we?
Yeah, I know. That's also a bizarre thing that I thought, God, I can't believe I'm even doing this here. How am I getting so stressed? Like, it's not stressful. Like, anyway, it's fine.
So you tell me that there was a moment in your life where your priorities shifted in an instant, which was when you went to Arium.
I know, I was trying to think of that was the sort of main thing that I guess sort of jumped out at me that I have changed in my life, which has sort of led on to lots of other things. And yeah, it was about sort of over 4 years ago now that I went veggie, and I yeah, it definitely, for me, it really worked and I love it. And I'm not really that extreme with things. I'm kind of quite measured as a person, but I still, for actually over those years, I've still cooked meat for clients. But it's not really for me because I guess I have two lives. I have my sort of chef life and then I have the food I eat. That's the way I see it anyway. And yeah, I've loved the way it makes me feel. And then I think what it's changed is obviously provenance of where ingredients come from. It's made me care so much more. And eating seasonal food, and then consequently that leads on to the environment. And it was actually environmental. That was the reason I first did it. It wasn't because of health. It was just to see, I think like everyone, caring a lot more and wanting to do your bit that you could do. And then it sort of led on to fashion. I mean, it sort of changed my life because it's made me care so much more about all aspects of my life. And, whether it's fashion. I mean, I was never like a big shopper anyway, but it's definitely made me much more conscious of when I buy an item, I try and do all this research. I mean, it's annoying because I have to do so much. I feel like I have to do so much extra work checking where this thing comes from and who's made it. And so and then that leads on to other industries, whether it's like beauty. So I think I was having this conversation yesterday about books, and I love books so much. And I love the idea of, I just love holding a book when and I read quite a lot. And I'm now just thinking, God, I think I have to get a Kindle, but I don't want to do that because I just don't want to have like something that I have to charge. I'm quite old fashioned like that when it comes to books. But then I'm like, God, well, what am I going to do? Because I moved house and I noticed how many books I've got. So yeah, that's my next thing. I'm like, how do I swap that for a more sort of sustainable way? I mean, it's exhausting, really. Do you find that? What?
Yeah, I try and source most of my things fairly sustainably. So most of my fashion, when I worked in fashion years ago, I was very involved in the sustainable side of things.
I mean, I just watched Seaspiracy, which obviously opened up a can of worms too.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, well, maybe when you're in a really positive mood, then you can watch it. I wouldn't watch it when you're like a bit down about life.
I was actually veggie until I got pregnant with my first, and my partner thought I was pregnant because he found me at a barbecue, having been veggie for years, eating like a burger. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know. I absolutely have to eat this right now." And he
really, oh my God,
like, "I'm going to do a pregnancy test," because that was quite out of behavior, standard behavior, which was really interesting. That my body never craved it when I was veggie before, and then suddenly when I was pregnant really did.
Yeah. Well, it's so important to listen to that, isn't it?
Mm. Okay, finally, I want to talk to you about what you'd like to prioritize more. So you've said two things, one of which is that you wish you were a bit more organized.
Yeah.
And the other is that you wish you weren't so sensitive sometimes.
Yes. I don't know if that's something how you can prioritize.
Yeah.
I wish I was more organized. I'm always trying to be more organized, and I feel that everyone is more organized than me. But maybe that comes. It's just not something I feel I'm born to do. But I've realized the benefits of it so much, and yeah, I think that's something that takes practice for me. But I do quite often feel like I'm sort of, what is it? You're like hanging by the seam of your pants. I do feel that quite a lot. But And then, about being too sensitive. I think this is something I just am with things, and I think it would be good to I think because I'm quite a passionate person, it would be good to just be a little bit less, maybe. But I haven't worked out how to stop that. So that's a work in progress. They're both work in progresses.
So, in terms of the organization, I think.
Are you very organized?
I am pretty organized, but I'm really naturally organized. So I know that that's my strength.
Oh, damn, you're so lucky.
And I do a lot of organizing for other people, like my mom or my best friend. I'll go and like help them organized a lot of the time, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's something that nourishes me and keeps me in a really good place. However, I think it's really good because you've said it's not your speciality. And I think just recognizing that doesn't mean that it has to become your speciality. There's also a lot to be said for recognizing that it's not necessarily your strong point. And so can you either get help from other people in order to do it, or find a way to integrate it into your life so that it feels like you're not always at that tipping point, but that you're also not beating yourself up about it and saying, oh, I wish I was more organized, because, you know, that's not one of your strengths and you've got lots of other incredible strengths, especially your creativity.
Oh, this is very helpful. Well, I definitely, I actually last year, I had this amazing like angel lady come into my life who is called Annabelle. And it was about middle of the summer. And she's called a virtual assistant. And I just thought immediately, she approached me just saying, oh, would you maybe, she was completely honest. She said, oh, would you maybe like I see you're doing a new cookbook. Do you maybe want some help with that? And I immediately was like, no, I probably can't afford that. That sounds maybe too much. And, you know, I shouldn't really have an assistant. And then actually, when I was completely chaotic with the book, I wrote back to her and said, yeah, actually, it might be a good idea. And she has just made my life so much easier. And it's that whole thing of giving work to someone else to help your business move forward and help you move along, and it just being much less chaotic. But the problem I find, and it'd be funny if she listens to this because she'd know, is me being organized enough to give her the work to do, which I know is a bit of a, the vicious circle, that not giving the work, but then she's there. And so, but it's, I think, well, then it's fine. All I have to do is just admit that that's not a strength. I'll admit that.
And admit it and then delegate as you're doing. And maybe if you know that even getting to the point where you can give Annabelle the work is not a strength, that's definitely like a hurdle that you need to get past in order to make everything work more efficiently. Then maybe you could schedule in an hour. I imagine that you schedule in time to like work on recipes or create content for your Instagram or whatever it is. But you could also schedule in an hour a week where you just sit down and think about the tasks that you need to give away that week.
Yeah. So simple, but you're so right.
And then you have that time and it's done. And you can do that anywhere. You can do that sitting outside in the sun. You don't need to be indoors necessarily for that one. So you could combine it.
I'm going to do it today when I sit outside in the sun.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, and then sensitivity. We'll come on to that quickly. Sensitive to the world in general, because the world is harsh. Sensitive to what people say,
I think
above.
I think all of the above. I mean, for example, I take a lot of, for example, watching that documentary about Seaspiracy. Like, I know quite a lot of the problems already because it's the food industry, so I know. But for example, when I watch the news, I feel that is something that really affects me. But obviously, I want to know. I want to be knowledgeable and aware of what's going on. But it does weigh me down, and I think it's partly it's the language that they use that really frustrates me. I have a real, what is it called? Bee in my bonnet about the news and how they present it, really. And I think I take it, it does wear me down a lot, and I have to really monitor how much of an intake I have, because it just gets me too down, really. So you could take it up with the news.
Yeah, the news is created. I say this as someone who's worked in journalism as well. It is created to engender often a negative reaction, because that's the way that people keep watching or reading. Reminding yourself of that. And there is really a point at which you don't need to be any more knowledgeable than you are.
Informed. Yeah.
Often people go quite far past the point of the need to know.
Yeah.
And especially people like you, who are already sensitive, who are already very empathetic to the world around them and people around them. And also, ultimately, sensitivity means you really care, So it's. I don't know whether I would improve on bolstering your own sort of what would you call it? Like protections from the world, but not trying to minimize your own sensitivity, because that means that you care. It means that you're connected. It means that you're aware of other people, and that's really a superpower. That's an incredible thing to have, and so important. And not enough people connect with that.
Oh, well, that's very sweet. You can put a nice spin on it. I like that.
Doesn't mean it's exhausting, by the way.
No, I mean, I totally see what you're saying. It's just a balance, isn't it? And keeping that balance. And, little things. And I think that probably a lot of people feel this. Like, I've been, watching things before you go to bed that are either very depressing or sad or like violent. This is inevitable. It will mess up your sleep. And so I try and keep things light, because I just know it's going to mess up my sleep. So for example, like, I'm loving Call My Agent. I don't know if you've seen that, because it's just lighthearted and funny. And I just feel even more now with everything that's happened in this year, those are the things that keep you in a good space. Monitoring. I just do my sort of whatever, my morning, listen to a bit of the news, and then I try and cut it out. But sometimes, the holiday thing, I'm not going to lie, it did get me last week. Bit of a shock.
Well, fingers crossed for that. That's maybe something will change. And then suddenly it will be very open again.
Yes, exactly.
We are very adaptable humans. We will forget that we were ever in a state where we couldn't move around freely.
Exactly. No, we're so I think that's been one of the sort of favorite phrases that I've always said, is just adapting. Something cancels, it's fine. We adapt, we move, it's changed. You've got to have a plan B and C and D. It's fine. Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks so much, Nina. I will link to Saucy, to your book, in the show notes, as well as some of the other bits that you've mentioned.
Thank you. Well, so nice to talk to you this morning.
You too. Hopefully you've inspired some people to start planning their dinner parties.
Yes.
Definitely.
Oh my God, definitely. And, working on a great playlist, a nice wine. Definitely. I think it's what we all need, and hopefully some hugs as well would be nice.
If you enjoyed this episode of Priorities, I'd really appreciate it if you could make it your priority today to hit subscribe and also rate and review, as this helps other people find it. Need a little incentive? Every month I offer one free 6-month membership to my online studio, Mindful Moment. All you have to do is hit subscribe, rate, review the podcast, and then email a screenshot of your review to podcast@lilysilverton.com for a chance to win. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.